Life in the urban sprawl as a police officer doesn't just toughen you, it encases you in a shell of skepticism so thick it might as well be Kevlar. That was me, Emma, a 37-year-old former lieutenant turned private detective. I carried a suitcase of mistrust heavier than the cases I cracked. My daily grind orbiting around unfaithful partners and the art of deception, hardly the backdrop for a romantic tale. Then Bobby strolled into my life, a beacon of modern artistry, refreshing my world like a vibrant brushstroke on a faded mural. We crossed paths at an art exhibition in Philadelphia, surrounded by enthusiasts tossing around terms like postmodern and avant-garde with effortless poise. I, however, felt as out of place as a fish trying to pedal a bicycle. Intriguing piece, isn't it? Bobby said, his gaze fixed on what looked like a strategically arranged heap of junk. If by intriguing, you mean I've seen tidier trash heaps, then absolutely, I quipped. His laugh, deep and resonant, turned heads. That laugh, and the man it belonged to, swept me into a whirlwind romance. Fast forward 7 months, and I was utterly smitten. Bobby was a dapper gentleman who seemed plucked from a bygone era, charming me with poetry readings, exquisite art shows, and an attention that made me feel like the only woman alive. Beneath a starlit sky in Central Park, he proposed. My yes came without hesitation, my heart pounding with sheer joy. The engagement was blissful, a haze of love and daydreams about a future brimming with laughter, adventure, and maybe children, but as the saying goes, if something seems too good to be true. Enter Marilyn, Bobby's mother, the epitome of frostiness. She scrutinized me with the air of someone inspecting a blemish on fine china. A detective? Isn't that a tad unladylike? She asked during our first dinner together. That depends on which century your ideals are anchored in, I replied, earning a tense smile from Bobby. Her visits grew more frequent, each one an audit of our burgeoning life together. 3 weeks into our marriage, she appeared unannounced one chilly Tuesday evening. Her disdain was as palpable as the cold outside. Emma, darling, she began, her voice dripping with condescension, still clinging to that quaint little job of yours? I had hoped marriage would refine you into a proper lady. I was slicing vegetables for dinner, the knife suddenly tempting for uses beyond the culinary. Marilyn, where I come from, we call this earning a living. You might try it sometime instead of leeching off others, I said, my voice steady. Her lips pursed, but she maintained her poised demeanor. Bobby was raised with certain expectations. Emma, there's still time for you to choose a more respectable career. Something like full-time meddling? I shot back, my tone sharp. Thanks, but I'll stick to tracking unfaithful spouses and deceivers. Speaking of which, how's your bridge club treating you? Bobby entered just then, his impeccable timing diffusing the tension, though his arrival didn't stop Marilyn's passive-aggressive commentary. Your wife has quite the flair for sharp remarks, she said sweetly. Mom, Bobby sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Emma's career is part of who she is. Can we not do this right now? I swallowed my irritation and turned back to the chopping board, letting the argument simmer with the vegetables. After Marilyn's visits, Bobby retreated into a shell of silence that I couldn't penetrate. It was painfully clear whose side he was on, and it wasn't mine. One particularly tense evening, after Marilyn had criticized everything from my cooking to my housekeeping, I confronted him. Why don't you ever stand up for me? I demanded. Your mother treats me like I'm invisible, and you just let her. Is this what our marriage is supposed to be? Bobby looked weary. Emma, she's old-fashioned. What do you want me to do? Cut her off? No, I want you to support me, to tell her she can't bulldoze over us. Is that asking too much? He sighed, raking his fingers through his hair. I'll talk to her, okay? Just give it some time, she'll adjust. But she didn't, neither did he. The distance between us grew, widened by Marilyn's coldness and Bobby's passivity, creating a chasm that felt impossible to bridge. Living with Bobby started to feel like being part of a melodrama, where the cracks in our perfect facade began to show. He worked at a prestigious art gallery, an impressive-sounding role until you considered how erratic his earnings were. Meanwhile, my detective work provided a comfortable lifestyle in a stylish apartment. One evening, as we discussed our future over dinner, I brought up the idea of eventually buying a house, envisioning the space we'd need if we planned to start a family. Bobby paused, his fork hovering midair, and looked at me quizzically. Emma, where are you getting these ideas? We don't need a house, and me finding a new job isn't on the agenda. I set my fork down, trying to maintain a calm tone. It's not about need, Bobby, it's about planning for our future. A stable income would certainly help. He chuckled, a sound that used to warm my heart but now grated against my patience. You and your fixation on money, he said lightly. You always focus on the financial bottom line, don't you? Money isn't everything, Emma. His laughter pushed me to the edge. It's easy for you to say when you're not the one stressed about paying the bills each month. I'm not fixated on money, Bobby. He shrugged dismissively and returned to his meal as if we were merely discussing the weather. I'm happy with our life as it is. You're the one who's never satisfied. I stood, my appetite gone. Maybe I wouldn't be so focused on money if you contributed more than just critiques about how I manage ours. He didn't even glance up. I contribute in other ways, Emma. Not everything is about money. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. This wasn't just about buying a house, planning for kids, or finances. It was about respect, partnership, and support, none of which Bobby seemed to value. As long as his life remained comfortable, he dismissed my concerns as an obsession with money, sidestepping the real issues between us. On a seemingly ordinary Sunday, our living room became an impromptu stage for high drama when Marilyn, my not-so-favorite mother-in-law, dropped by unannounced. The air grew tense as she remained glued to her phone, her voice wavering between panic and confusion. And you're telling me my social security number has been suspended? How much do I need to pay to fix this? Marilyn's voice cracked as she rummaged through her purse for her checkbook and documents. In the kitchen, coffee in hand, I overheard her mention Social Security and payments. Years of police work had sharpened my instincts, and alarm bells rang in my head. This was a scam. I hurried into the living room, my approach quiet but quick. Marilyn, hang up the phone. It's a scam, I interjected, my tone firm but calm. She turned to me, shocked and offended. I beg your pardon? I'm handling this, Emma. There's no need for your intrusion. Before she could protest further, I stepped forward and ended the call with a decisive click. Silence enveloped the room, thick with tension. Marilyn recoiled, her face twisting into an expression of fury and disbelief. How dare you? That was incredibly rude and uncalled for. Who do you think you are, treating me like some naive child? Bobby appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. His expression was a mix of concern and frustration. Emma, what's going on? Why are you upsetting my mother? I turned to him, my frustration mounting. That call was from scammers, Bobby. They were trying to con Marilyn out of her money by claiming her social security number was suspended. It's a common tactic. I've seen it 100 times. Bobby rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture I recognized as him feeling cornered. Okay, but couldn't you have been more diplomatic about it? Marilyn, gathering her belongings with shaking hands, shot me a look sharp enough to curdle milk. I don't need to be saved, especially not by someone who treats me with such disrespect. I'll speak to the bank about this so-called scam. She stormed out, leaving a chilly silence behind. Bobby sighed, his gaze shifting between the door and me. Emma, I know you meant well, but you have to handle things more gently, especially with my mother. I felt a twinge of guilt but stood my ground. I know it seemed harsh, but there wasn't time for polite exchanges. Scammers thrive on urgency, and any hesitation could have cost Marilyn dearly. The next day, still feeling a mix of curiosity and guilt, I decided to call her. After 3 rings, she picked up, her voice cold and measured. What do you want, Emma? I cleared my throat. I just wanted to check on you after yesterday. Did you speak with the bank about that call? There was a pause before she reluctantly admitted. Yes, I did. They confirmed it was a scam. Her tone hardened. But that doesn't excuse how you handled things. You were rude and aggressive. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache coming on. I'm sorry if I seemed harsh. I was just trying to protect you. These scammers are professional deceivers and very convincing. Her reply was curt, laced with begrudging gratitude. Well, I suppose I should thank you for stopping me from making a mistake, but don't think this changes my view of your methods or your demeanor. Goodbye, Emma. The tension between Bobby and me deepened, turning our home from a warm sanctuary into a chilly battlefield. Clinging to hope, I saw his upcoming birthday as an opportunity to rekindle the fading spark in our relationship. I meticulously planned a weekend getaway just for the two of us, dreaming of restoring what we once had. However, Marilyn bulldozed through my plans with her own, scheduling a grand dinner at her mansion on a weekday, fully aware my work schedule was overflowing. I pleaded with her over the phone. Can't we push it to Saturday? I'm swamped at work. Her voice was a blend of syrup and frost. No, dear, this is when it's happening. Bobby shouldn't have to adjust his birthday to fit around your job. Frustration gnawed at me as I confided in my boss, a veteran of countless betrayals and deceptions. He understood the importance of gestures. Go, he urged, giving me a knowing look. Do what you need to do. Arriving at Marilyn's, the party was already in full swing, an ostentatious display of pretense. Marilyn spotted me immediately, her smile tightening as she whispered something to Bobby. There he was, my husband, ensconced by the fireplace, his arm casually draped around a woman who was more than just a colleague. My heart sank, but I steeled myself and approached them. Aren't you going to introduce me? I tried to keep my voice steady, though my emotions churned. Bobby, aren't you going to introduce me? He flinched, his eyes widening in shock. Emma, this is Lori, from the gallery, he muttered, glancing nervously at her before turning to me. And this is Emma, a relative. The words hit me like a slap. A relative? My voice rose before I could stop it. Your wife, Bobby, or have you conveniently forgotten? The room fell silent, the tension crackling like static electricity. Bobby's expression twisted, a mixture of embarrassment and irritation. You know, he snapped, a real wife would have made her husband's birthday a priority. He turned away dismissively, his words cutting deeper than I thought possible. Before I could respond, Marilyn appeared, her voice dripping with disdain. You see, Emma, you just don't fit in here. Bobby needs someone supportive, like Lori, not, whatever this is. She gestured vaguely at me, her disdain unmistakable. Her next words were cold and biting. I think it's best if you leave, you're not wanted here. I stood frozen for a moment, Marilyn's venomous words echoing in my ears. Then, I straightened my spine and met her gaze with all the strength I could muster. You're right, Marilyn, I don't belong in a family built on lies and deception. With as much dignity as I could gather, I walked out, the chill of the night air wrapping around me like an unwelcome embrace. After the debacle of Bobby's birthday and the revelations that followed, I knew I needed undeniable proof to sever this marriage on my terms, but the idea of uncovering Bobby's betrayal myself was unbearable. I reached out to Alan, a trusted colleague with a knack for uncovering discreet affairs. Alan, I said, my voice barely steady, I need a favor. Anything for you, he replied without hesitation. What's going on? It's Bobby, I think he's seeing someone. I need evidence, I admitted, the words tasting bitter. Say no more, Alan assured me, I'll handle it discreetly, you'll have everything you need. He was true to his word, the evidence he gathered was damning, photos, audio, and more. Lori wasn't just a fling, she was here illegally, seeking a quick marriage to secure her status. She and Bobby had even been involved in fraud. Part of me wanted to confront Bobby with the evidence, but I knew better. He didn't deserve my anger, my pain, or my time. Filing for divorce was painful but necessary, like tearing off a band-aid over a festering wound. I demanded financial compensation, just a fraction of what I had lost emotionally and financially during our marriage. Marilyn, ever the dragon lady, sided with Bobby, painting me as the villain, but armed with the evidence, I stood my ground. When the papers were signed, I felt an overwhelming sense of release. It wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the beginning of a new life. I poured my energy into opening my detective agency, turning my pain into purpose. The agency thrived quickly, building a reputation for discretion and effectiveness. It was a reflection of everything I'd learned, the lies, the betrayals, and the resilience I had cultivated. Every case was a small victory, a piece of myself healing as I helped others uncover their own truths. One morning, as I sifted through files, Alice, my right-hand woman, peeked into my office. Boss, we've got a potential case. A woman suspects her husband is having an affair. I smiled, the irony not lost on me. Sounds like our bread and butter. What's the catch? She's on a tight budget, Alice said. I thought for a moment. This was my chance to help someone like the person I used to be. We'll work with her budget, I decided. And Alice, let's make sure we're thorough. I know all too well what it's like to be on the other side of this. Life has a way of coming full circle. A week after Marilyn's surprise visit to my agency, my phone buzzed with a number I thought I'd erased. Seeing Bobby's name flash on the screen felt surreal. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma, he began, his voice carrying a blend of hope and desperation. I've been thinking. I want us to start over, have kids, build a future together. I snorted, unable to hold back my disbelief. Really? And where would we live in this fantasy of yours? With my mom, at first, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We'll save money, and then you can buy us a house. It'll be perfect. This time, I laughed, loud and unrestrained. You really haven't changed, Bobby. You still think I exist to clean up your messes and fund your dreams. Emma, please, he stammered. I've changed. We can fix this. I paused, reflecting on the years I had wasted and the strength I had found since leaving him. Then, with a calm I hadn't known before, I said, no, Bobby, you haven't changed. Goodbye. Hanging up felt like closing the final chapter of a book I'd long since finished. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. As I returned to my work, I felt a surge of purpose. The past was behind me, and the future stretched out like a blank canvas, ready for me to paint with bold, vibrant strokes. Life's best revenge is living well, and I was fully committed to doing just that.